Welcome in. This is Grayson Grunhaver with Sikkim 365, and I'm here with Brian Etheridge. We're coming to you after camp number 2. It's in the books, summer camp number 2, June 12th. Another really fun day, a much more jam-packed day as far as how many kids were out there. Of course, there were about 125 last week, and I would say that number probably doubled
easily
this week. So a lot of fun, a lot of action to cover, a lot more offers to cover as well. But first of all, Brian, great day. I had a lot of fun out there. A little bit hot for some stretches, but really enjoyed the day as a whole. How about you? What'd you think?
I mean, it was funny. Today started the same as last week. Get out of the car, leave the house, and it's raining. I got a lightning storm I'm having to driving through rain the entire time, get outside of South Dallas, and that stopped. So that was a interesting thing to go through again. But, got down here. Last week wasn't that hot. This week was hot.
It was.
So it was balmy. Even inside the indoor, it was balmy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to be in the indoor. You got to see the offensive line, defensive line for a while. I spent some time in there, spent some time with just the defensive line individually for a little bit before they moved inside to do the one-on-ones. But so I guess you want to start with the offers. How about we start there? Start with the offensive line, defensive line. So along the offensive line, who were some of the guys that stood out? And then we can kind of dive into analyzing some of the offers that went out at that position.
We obviously know Colton Thomason came in just recently, offered by Texas and Texas A&M. He's a massive young man. That was, we've seen him since 6th grade, and he was massive then. Now he, comes back. He's lost 80 some odd pounds. He's around 320 instead of being 400. He's still 6'7". And he moves a heck of a lot better. You can really tell it. That's one of the guys that stood out there. He played some tackle, played some guard, slid back and forth. Nick Morrow out of Flagstaff has athletic ability, has really long arms, really great body. He's sort of a tweener between O-line and D-line. Not a tweener in size by any manner, but he could be somebody that could, I think, play either way. I think right now he received an offer at defensive line, but he is 6'6", 250, 260, and could easily be 6'6", 320.
Yeah, I definitely see him as an offensive lineman. Based on what I saw today, obviously it changes when pads are on.
Yeah.
And also, Aranda's scheme is one where I think it's also hard to judge guys just based on their pass rushing, because they might be able to fill gaps and be able to do some things that you don't really get to see in a camp environment, if that makes sense. And he's going to carry good weight regardless of which position he plays. So, yes, out of Flagstaff High School in Arizona, Nick Morrow, he got the offer today. After camp, like you said, defensive line is the offer, but today he played offensive line a whole lot more. So I was kind of surprised by that a little bit.
Well, he did his one-on-one reps at defensive end and defensive tackle, and I think he earned it at defensive tackle, essentially, because when he brought up at defensive end, he had a good rep or two, but when he moved inside, he dominated inside. You could tell he did not know what he was doing as an offensive tackle. He is a raw kind of kid. To me, he reminded me of Elijah Ellis, who now could possibly be an NFL prospect. He has that athleticism. He has that length. The arms, the wingspan. Ashley Hodge is going to, go to sleep happy on that one. He's very long. Another kid that was, I don't think is going to be an offer, but Aaron Miller or Mueller, I'm not sure how you say it.
Corpus kid.
Kid. He's coachable. He's got the size, but you could see him staying up high a little bit too much. When Galvin was coaching him up, telling him to get his butt down and sink his hips, and when he did it, he won. When he didn't, he got pushed around. So that's something you see a kid that has coachability. He had the coachability. Now, is he going to be an offer right now? Probably not. But he is another kid that's 6'5", 6'6", that's sort of fallen under the radar. And again, we talked about it when we first got over here about how there are kids who just really have been disservice from COVID who did not get to go to camps last year and get this kind of coaching at this level, or that don't have a lot of tape for anybody to go out there and see.
Yeah, and I saw him as well, and I think the thing with Mueller is just it's going to be interesting to see how he tested, because I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing about him. His feet were a little slow.
Yeah.
And his weight wasn't so drastic that it made up for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he needed some strength. He needed some coaching. He needed to hit the weight room, and but again, I think he's probably right now G5 FCS kind of guy. I think he's a little better than the other kid from San Antonio we saw.
Out of Antonian?
Yeah, Antonian, Ty Short. I think he's a little better than him, just body size.
Yeah.
Both those guys are very similar levels. Another one that was impressive was 2023 kid out of Harker Heights with Jaden Chapman. Chatman.
Yeah, he was very impressive. Yeah.
Great wingspan. He started out with they have groups. They have 3 groups of, younger to middle to the guys that are, like if I'd have shown up here at offensive line, I'd be over in that second or third group. He was in that second group, and all of a sudden he's in that first group, and he's still having a good dominating performance. So I think he just got either mislabeled at the beginning, but moved himself in there. The coaches grabbed him as soon as they saw him dominating and moved him over, and he looked really good. And I think he's a guy that you could watch down the future. He's probably 6'3", 6'4", about 270 right now, but the wingspan of just huge.
Yeah, he had a great wingspan. He had a really good camp, for sure. I would also say that let's dive in a little bit to Colton Thomason.
Yeah.
Because you talked about him at the beginning, but he was the next one. They got the Baylor offer as well out of Smithson Valley. 2023 kid, lost 85 pounds in 6 months. He was over 400 pounds. Now he's at 325.
Yeah.
And he looks so much better. He got the Texas offer, got the A&M offer, now has the Baylor offer, has a UTSA offer as well. Recruitment really starting to pick up for a reason. He's going to go visit LSU. He's going to go visit Alabama, collect more offers, because that is what's going to happen. He looked excellent. I would say he was the best offensive lineman I saw today. And he was just so impressive. And that's a kid who has the opportunity to be a top 25 type kid in the entire state, maybe even higher than that. He has that kind of projectability, in my opinion, for that class.
You can't teach that size.
No.
And it is legitimately huge. He came in here and he's just a monster. And in a good way. Great kid. Going to be somebody that you don't mind wherever he goes, still saying, you hope he's doing good.
Yeah, so he was the next one, and then let's move to a Pleasant Grove offensive lineman / defensive lineman, Victor Shaw. He came by after, got to talk to him a little bit. Interesting, very interesting prospect. The reason I say that, he's about 6'3", 255, 2023, so a lot of weight still to add there. A lot of, I think, I think there's more growing that's going on there, but his frame looks really good right now. He carries the weight really well. He looks athletically built.
Yes.
Instead of just big. And I was very impressed. Moved his feet really well, great hands. A kid that likes the defensive line better because he likes to be more physical and punish opponents. And I'm like, that sounds like an offensive lineman to me.
I think so too. I think his future is on the offensive line, but you never know. It could be somebody that comes out and he's going to be a defensive tackle. He's not, he could play the defensive end in the 3-4 scheme, but I think right now, I think their coaches, and we were talking with Pleasant Grove coaches, they mentioned that they think his future is an offensive line, and they've put out some serious talent out of Pleasant Grove lately. Obviously, Landon Jackson and
Marcus Burris.
Yeah, you name it, they've come through and gone wherever they wanted to. And I expect Baylor probably to offer pretty soon down the line on Victor. And
should know on Monday, I think.
Yeah, the coaches there at Pleasant Grove mentioned that they expect Monday to hear yes or no. We know we've had other prospects that they've mentioned that too, and we've heard yeses on those and nos on them. So we'll know pretty soon.
Yeah, and I was very impressed with him. Felt like he had a really good day. So I guess we need to move on to the next offer on the offensive line, kind of a offensive line, defensive line guy who's not even really I don't even think you have to put him in a position quite yet, because Lance Jackson, 2025 prospect. He's going to be a freshman. It is unbelievable. This kid is massive. He has no idea how good he's about to be. And he obviously is the younger brother of Landon Jackson, the former 5-star prospect out of Pleasant Grove. And Lance has an opportunity to be even better than Landon, which is saying a whole lot, just based on his frame and kind of the opportunity to play offensive line and defensive line. Very impressive.
It's really funny because we saw Landon Jackson way back then, way back when he was being recruited. And when I saw Lance, I was like, started looking, and somebody goes, that's Pleasant Grove. I said, that's got to be his brother. But he's a little bit bigger, a little thicker than Landon. So as a soon to be freshman in high school, he's the same size as his brother who's going into college right now. He's legit, and he's gonna blow up. I don't know. I think what's his third offer?
Third offer.
Third offer. So it's just gonna keep building up for that kid all the way through, for the next 4 years.
Absolutely. So anyone else on the offensive line that we missed? We hit all the offers. So I think that's pretty much it.
There was one more. Jordan Waller, I think was.
Waller.
He looked pretty good. I'm not sure he's quite P5 or anything like that, but he was not going to do disservice to his school.
Yeah, Caden Morrow.
Yeah, he had some good hands again, but about 6'3", but again did pretty well as well. Also,
defensive line was a position I got to watch a lot. The one that really stood out, of course, DK.
Yeah,
Kalu.
Yeah,
very impressed by him. He is probably going to end up being a nose tackle. I think he could play defensive tackle. Maybe he could play maybe one of the other spots, but I see his body just continuing to grow. He's just got a great frame, especially his lower body. I just think he's going to be very powerful, very tough to deal with as a potential nose tackle, as long as he can keep growing and putting more weight on. But very thrilled to see the performance he had today. He already has a Baylor offer, of course. And has very good bloodlines as well. Yeah,
I mean, his dad, played in the pros for a little bit there. But, he was definitely the most impressive defensive lineman I saw. And, again, Nick Morrow did play some D-line and looked pretty good there. Obviously got the offer. But, that Kalu has something you just don't teach in his athleticism. He was able to, to spin moves or just fluid. His hips turn so easily. He's also got a broad base and broad shoulders. He's going to be, like you said, I could see him being a space eater inside there. There was another kid that I cannot think of right now. I mean, then again, Victor Shaw could be, defensive tackle, nose tackle in there.
And Lance Jackson could be.
Yeah, but I think that DK had the more natural body build to be a nose tackle or somebody who's going to be probably 6'2", 6'3", about 330, that just eats up offensive guards and centers.
Absolutely. So I know you were pretty much watching that group for the majority of the time.
Oh, yeah.
I went outside and braved the heat in the sun.
It wasn't any better inside that practice facility. It was the sauna. It was just licking you. Yeah.
So I went outside. I got to see a little bit of the quarterbacks first. That was kind of the first place I stopped to see kind of the talent that was on display out there. I know Coach Bell was coaching those guys really hard. And there were two names that stood out in that group, at least from what I could tell. So obviously Baylor put out an offer to Austin Novosad out of Dripping Springs High School.
Yep.
Found that to be really interesting. I liked what I saw from him, honestly, during the drills, and I didn't know who he was. It took me a little bit to figure out who he was, and then obviously he ended up getting the offer after the camp, but was really impressed with the way the ball came out of his hands. His arm strength was on a little bit of a different level, especially when they were doing drills where he was having to move and be on the run and make throws on the run while also being able to get it there quickly and in a hurry. So I was impressed with him. And then the other one is Steel Weasel out of Choctaw.
Yeah.
He's the other one. He's about 6'4" is what they have him listed. I would say he's probably more like 6'2", 6'3", but thick, like 215 pounds probably pretty easily.
Yeah.
Another good arm. Those two, it just seemed like the ball came out of their hands a little bit differently than the others. So very impressed. And obviously Baylor's trying to figure out, who's going to be that guy in their 2023 class. And I found it very interesting that Austin Novosad is their first 2023 quarterback offer. That is a huge deal.
I think that's his first offer.
It is, I believe.
Yeah, and so we got to see them warm up. And the funniest thing is, I think we were sitting down there at the bottom, trying to get 40 times of those guys come in front of us, and they warmed up in front of us for a solid 15 to 30 minutes. So every single one, the quarterback was standing in front of us, and you saw the difference. And I think when he started throwing, I was like, that ball whistled past me.
Yeah.
And I said, that kid's got some heat on that ball. And when you hear a football whistle by your head, you know it. And that's the one thing that it immediately stuck out about him. And he did. We're starting to see it. I mean, the quarterbacks all try to stand out by wearing a different hat or a different scarf or glove, it's whatever, to stick out, because there are so many quarterbacks that come to these camps. He didn't have anything on there besides that arm.
Yeah.
And he could let it fly.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't want to say, oh, this is going to be their guy after just putting out one offer, but I can say, this is a huge offer.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge step in that direction. 0 offers, and honestly, no one really it was hard for us to really imagine who they were going to offer. And I think we kind of have sat back and been talking to each other, trying to figure out who's going to be the guy. And Austin Novosad just might be that guy at the quarterback position. So moving on from that position, got to see a little bit of the running backs and wide receivers. There wasn't a whole lot to take away from it as far as guys that really, really stood out to me. I know Rohan Fluellen was out there playing. I think he played some wide receiver today, actually, out of Oklahoma. He looked pretty good. Running back, Jalen Bordley out of Pleasant Grove.
Yep.
He's going to be a guy to get to know pretty quickly.
I agree. He looked really, really good.
He looked good. His size, he's a thick running back. He's going to get a ton of carries this year, and he's going to blow up. He already has UTSA as an offer, so it's transitioning into that. And he's a 2024 prospect. So, I mean, he's got a long ways to go. That Pleasant Grove team,
it's loaded.
They're going to be loaded for the next 4 years.
I mean, I got on you about Marlin having talent last week. The Pleasant Grove just quadruples that.
I guess I'm the only person in the world that didn't know Marlin has like 5 stars just begging to go to school there, apparently.
I mean, obviously one's about to be a 5-star.
I know. Oh, yeah, he is.
I mean, he's blowing up. So it's interesting to watch. I mean, in Texas, and I know we talked about this a little bit at the camp too, about how many kids there are that are 5'9", 5'10" that run a 4.5. And, but when you start going up in size, how many of them are in that 4.5 at 6 foot or 6'1", and that's where you start getting your delineation from, and how you start seeing the drop off. And we're starting to see some really, really fast kids. And I mean, even one of the Pleasant Grove kids that he's a little smaller, Russell, who came in here, that kid burned a 40. And when we watched it, I was like, whoa. And the coach is, sending back 3 times to run the 40 again. So I'm not sure exactly what he ran, but it was smoking. But again, he's probably 5'6", 5'7". That's the issue with him, right? But once you find speed, you try to keep it, and that's what that was.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about these defensive backs. There were a few offers that were sent out, and one that I think could be actually coming somewhat soon. So the first one, we got to start with the guy who just absolutely destroyed his 40 time. I mean, apparently set a record for himself because the fastest he ever ran, according to him, was high 4.4s.
Yeah.
And he ran a 4.37, and that is DeCarlos Nicholson on Mississippi Gulf Coast. He's a JUCO prospect, a converted quarterback.
Yep.
Who converted to DB this offseason. Has literally just started playing defensive back, ran that time, and he basically immediately, we knew he was getting an offer.
Think about this. With COVID year, he's got 3 years to play.
Yeah.
And he's from Hattiesburg, knows Hakeem Vance.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. Yeah.
He is impressive. I'm not sure he's 6'3". He might be.
He's a legit 6'2". There is no ifs,
no doubt,
ands, or buts.
No doubt, no doubt 6'2" plus.
Yeah.
That guy, and nice guy, nice kid,
Very
good
nice.
family. Came into the studio. We got a chance to talk to him. When I saw him run his 40, and I was like, I'm just gonna go track that guy down. And I went and got his number from him right there at the camp, and said, "Hey, you need to come to the studio. I don't care if they offer him or not, but you run that kind of 40. Yeah, let's talk to you."
Right, and he was 6'3", 200, 6'2.5", 200, whatever it was. Impressive build. You could tell he wasn't a senior in high school. There was a big difference there. I know he's playing cornerback. I do believe he'll probably be a safety if he were to come to Baylor. I think that's where he is probably going to project the best. But on the flip side, I mean, we did see Derek Thomas have great success at Baylor at that size. Knowing what I know about their safety position at Baylor, they like tall, long athletes out there like JT Woods and Romario Noel, who I know is playing corner. But we'll see. We'll see where he could end up.
Yeah, Romario Noel, where I think he's going to probably start at corner.
He will.
But here's who's playing corner right now is the kid out of Oklahoma, Chateau Reed.
Oh, yeah.
He's moved to corner at 6'2".
Yeah.
So I think that big boundary corner is somebody they're looking for, but it's going to be interesting to watch. And if he can play corner, but I think that Baylor's his first Power 5 offer too, right?
Yep, first Power 5 offer. He'll be visiting Florida State, much to Paul's happiness over there as Paul's producing. Thanks again, Paul, for producing. And I know you got your happiness today when one of the guys said Florida State is where he's going to visit, didn't you? Got happy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's shaking his head. So he's going to that. He's going to Louisiana on an unofficial visit. So that's coming up for him. And then he'll also go to Mississippi State. I fully expect Mississippi State to offer him. And Florida State probably.
But who knows Mike Leach, what he thinks. I mean,
True.
He might turn him into a receiver.
True. So then the other safety that got offered today, Jadaeus Richard, another name that we've come to know pretty well out of West Monroe in Louisiana. His recruitment started to pick up. He got TCU, I believe, a couple days ago after camping there. Actually, it was yesterday. So you kind of knew that he would probably get offered at Baylor camp today. Gary, for whatever reason, he does a nice job evaluating recruits, and also when they come to your camp, you can basically verify that they're athletic enough to play at the D1 level as well. So Jadaeus Richard, no surprise there that he got an offer. Very excited about that offer as well. I think he's a very, very good player, and Baylor's had some success out of West Monroe with Brooks Miller.
Well, that's the one thing, too. You're starting to see more kids out of Louisiana or Mississippi. I mean, it's really interesting to watch because Dave Aranda is known across those regions from his time at LSU. Baylor has started reached into that area in other sports with men's basketball, pretty much owning the New Orleans Reserve area. So you're starting to see the Baylor name in those areas, and it's good to see. I mean, there's plenty of athletes there who would like to leave Louisiana or don't have enough places to go in Louisiana because there's one major school in Louisiana. If you don't go to LSU, I mean, Baylor's a Power 5 school, TCU's a Power 5 school, Texas Tech's a Power 5 school. I mean, you name it, all across the country. Surrounding Louisiana, there are, 10 Power 5s?
Yeah, very close.
I mean, you have both, you have Mississippi, Ole Miss, Kansas, Arkansas, Texas, has all the Power 5s in here. So you're starting to see more of those Louisiana kids leave Louisiana if they're not offered by LSU. And there's more than 25 great kids because LSU's recruiting Texas and everywhere else. So if you get a top 10 kid out of Louisiana, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, the only issue is when LSU does offer.
If they do.
They usually do a pretty good job cleaning house in Louisiana. So a couple more names I want to mention, not necessarily offers. We've gone through all the offers that we know of so far. There will be more offers throughout the week, as we saw last week.
Expecting some Monday, probably.
Yes, expecting some Monday. But two I want to mention just to kind of keep an eye on. So Nate Mitchell out of Temple High School, 2023. He measured in at 5'9.5", I think is what he said. So not the tallest, but I would also say Baylor seems pretty willing at the cornerback position to offer guys who are right around that height. They did it with Tayshawn last week, who's right around 5'10", 5'9". So I think Nate Mitchell is a guy to definitely keep an eye on throughout the week and throughout the coming months, really. Yeah. He has an Arkansas offer. It seems like TCU and Colorado are pretty close, and Correct. It seems like Baylor could also be pretty close as well.
I think they wanted to see him at cornerback. They got to see him at cornerback, and they got to measure him. I mean, he's listed at 5'11".
Yeah, he's not 5'11".
No, I think he's in the 5'9", 5'10" range. Yeah. Great kid, great background. Dad's a coach. It's going to be good. Yeah, I mean, just go ahead and offer him. I mean,
I think so.
That's the way I see it. I mean, that's the kind of kid that you want on your team, and he's not going to hurt you. He's going to be somebody that, again, pushes everybody on the team.
Yeah, and his frame is an interesting one because he seems to have long arms.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of room to grow. Also, you have to factor in Temple. It's very good for Baylor to recruit Temple. Obviously, they have a lot of talent there right now. Mikael Harrison-Pilot is also there, so a little bit of a connection there with Nate. Nate also transferred from Manor to Temple, so good friends with Devin Lemire,
correct?
Current Baylor linebacker, safety, star position guy.
Yep.
So, yeah, good connection there. And then the final one I want to mention is Nahamani Harris, who was at Cornerstone as a senior, but is now going to St. Thomas More Prep in Connecticut, going to prep school for a year. He's just a guy who got invited to this camp. He's gone to so many camps, getting invites to Florida State, Kansas State, UTSA, and so he's going to be a fun one to watch. He's listed around 6'2", is what he measured in today, ran a 4.68-ish around there. So he could be an intriguing one. Obviously, prep school for a year. He keeps his full eligibility, but is a year older.
Yeah, but he was a young high school senior. So
turned 18 in March,
Yeah, so he is right there on that edge, and I think his future is probably at linebacker with the 4.68, even though that is laser. But
faster than I expected.
Yeah, faster than we expected.
Yeah, so another one to watch there. So I guess that's pretty much the main guys. We got all the offers, talked about them, analyzed them a little bit. We'll be back next week, and we kind of have a double feature next week as we got the camp.
Father's Day weekend.
Yeah. Father's Day weekend, and Brian will be doing no fatherly activities. He will be here hanging out with me.
Like I ever do any fatherly activities. My kids are way better off without me raising them, okay? Let my wife do all that work.
So we'll do the camp report next weekend on Saturday, and then on Sunday we should be back in here trying to wrap up the official visit weekend.
So that's going to be we have the camp starting at 8:30 on Saturday. And then we have a official visit starting, I guess, at 8 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah, but they always come in after they finish.
Yeah, but,
so we can figure out.
Yeah, but we'll be here pretty much at 8 o'clock on both days. So it's going to be a fun thing to do. And I'll be back home for Father's Day as soon as it's done.
Okay.
On Sunday. I'll be home probably by 2 o'clock, I think.
All right. Well, we're counting on it, Brian. But we'll talk to you all next week. This has been a camp report with Brian Etheridge and Grayson Grunhafer on SicEm365.com.